What's up, everybody? This is Mr. View with World History, and we are continuing on with the Industrial Revolution. Today, we're going to talk about hospitals and population booming and things like that. But yesterday, we talked about how the Industrial Revolution spread from England, right? England tried to keep it a secret because they were making a lot of money. Kind of like what I'm going to do tonight when I win that lottery for $600 million. Come on, this might be the last time you see me, so you better enjoy it. But the Industrial Revolution spread, right? They had a lot of resources, money, and a good labor force. That's where this Industrial Revolution spread to. But the ideas couldn't stay put in England forever, so it goes and spreads out. We talked about a lot of inventions yesterday, including the three-wheel and four-wheel automobile by Benz and Daimler. We talked about the light bulb and how revolutionary that was with Thomas Edison. Airplanes with the Wright brothers, dynamite with Nobel, who regretted his invention so much that he created a peace prize, the Nobel Peace Prize. For that, we talked about some the steamship and the steam locomotive. So changing transportation, so people weren't just stuck in one place now forever. They're moving and branching out through travel. That is one of the humongous differences between pre-industrial and post-industrial revolution times, right? So hopefully you learned a little bit about stuff and are finding out how we get to Michigan Center 2021 from way back then throwing rocks at each other. So the population explodes during this time. In Europe, it doubled in just about 100 years. From 1800 to 1900, population doubled in Europe. And you might think, well, they're just having more babies, No, it wasn't about, there wasn't more babies being born necessarily, but they were living through the pregnancies and living through the childbirth process. So it wasn't that the birth rate was higher; it was actually a little bit lower. But everybody was living and living longer lives, right? So as they lived longer, the population increases. So the death rate really, really declines because there's a lot of different advances at this time, right? So why does the population increase? Why does it double in Europe and grow humongously? Because number one, better farming. We talked about seed drill, we talked about crop rotation and things like that. But they were producing way more food, right? More food means people are healthier, and women are healthier, and they survive that childbirth, and the birth weight is up for the babies and stuff. So better farming, more food, healthier women, healthier babies, and people didn't starve to death. There were also many, many medical advances, some of which we'll talk about. There's a lot better sanitation. We talk about how the sanitation in cities was awful, right? They're throwing their waste in the streets, and we know that the fleas on the rats that are attracted to waste, caused the bubonic plague in 1300s. But now we get better sanitation and we get better understanding. People start bathing more and cleaning their clothes, and that actually, you think that's a little bit thing, outside of stinking maybe, but that's a big thing in the sense that it kills a lot of these germs. Hospitals prior to this industrial revolution, and even during a lot of the industrial revolution, were really dark and dirty and nasty places. It was a death sentence to go to some of these hospitals. That's why the doctors performed house calls. So the rich people, they stayed at home. Doctors came to them. That was a good move by them because these hospitals, no sanitation. They didn't understand that you couldn't cut into somebody with an infection and then use that same scalpel, wipe it off and cut into somebody else. That was causing infections in other people, right? Because they didn't have the antiseptics to clean these instruments. So when that changes, and hospitals become cleaner, the population is going to increase and people are going to live longer, right? Hospitals, we go there to be sick, not get sicker. Or, sorry, we go to hospitals to get well, not to get sicker. So we also figured out this germ theory. They had thought that there was a link between these microbes and disease, but they couldn't really prove it. Well, here comes this genius, Louis Pasteur. Louis Pasteur changes the world. He finds that link and proves the link between microbes and disease. And not only that, but he throws out a few vaccines. Right? He gets a vaccine for rabies, a vaccine for anthrax, and he takes the impurities out of milk. He pasteurizes milk, right? If you look at your little milk carton today, it'll say pasteurized. That means he took the impurities out of that milk, and so it's drinkable, and it's not going to get you sick. So this Louis Pasteur guy, germ theory, rabies, anthrax, and pasteurization, he is one of the geniuses of all time, I guess. Antiseptics were also created. This guy named Joseph Lister, he figures out antiseptics and he sterilizes equipment. You might have heard of this, Listerine, right? You drink some Listerine, cleans out the bacteria in your mouth. That's where it comes from. This guy named Lister sterilizes this equipment, and now when you're using that scalpel to cut into people, you sterilize it instead of just washing it, right? We know washing it isn't really sterilizing it. They would sterilize the equipment, and now these people weren't transferring these infections from one person to another. Anesthesia also started being used. This allows for more surgeries, right? You're not going to allow somebody to cut into you when you're awake. Anesthesia puts people to sleep. You're allowed to do more surgeries in that instance. And another game changer was this woman named Florence Nightingale. You may have heard the name before, but didn't really know what she did. She was a nurse, right? And she creates the first school of nursing. She's an English woman, and she goes to this Crimean War. And in that war, she works in the medical tents and things. She notices that about 60% of the people that go into those tents for some injury end up dying. And so she cleans it all up. She cleans it all up. And within 6 months, now only 2% of the people are dying. So knocks it down 58%. That's some quick math for your geniuses. Knocks it down 58% in 6 months. She sailed as a hero throughout England and throughout the world eventually because she creates a school of nursing, passes this knowledge on to everybody else, and the hospitals become safer, society becomes safer, and that allows that population to boom, right? Helps with that population. So to review, we know that the population exploded in the 1800s to 1900s. It had doubled in Europe. There was a lower birth rate, but also a lower death rate. People were not dying as much. They were living much longer because of better farming, medical advances, and sanitation. More bathing and cleaning clothes happened. Hospitals started off as these crappy places where you went to basically die. Even if you were well, you got sicker. Germ theory was discovered, and the link between microbes and disease was proven by this guy named Louis Pasteur, who was a genius. He also came up with vaccines for rabies, anthrax, and he figured out how to get the impurities out of milk with pasteurization. Antiseptics came around with Joseph Lister. Sterilizing equipment made things safer. Anesthesia allowed more surgeries. And Florence Nightingale was a saint, where she develops first school of nursing and really eliminates some of these deaths that were happening needlessly. So that's it for today. Today, in your assignment, you're going to be looking at three different graphs. There's 3 different graphs and 10 total questions. So make sure you do all 10 questions, put those answers out there, and get this done by noon on Thursday. All right. Have a great day, everybody, and I'll talk to you later.